Hello, back at it for the first time ever? I don't know. Here's the thing about making YouTube and having ideas of making YouTube. You have to just kind of do it. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. I mean, like, actually years, because I grew up on YouTube. Like, when I was 11, I had YouTube access, and I could, like, see all kinds of shit. Those were the days of, like, Shane Dawson, the Shaytards, you know, like all the LA creators. The one guy named, like, is it Philip something? I'm almost want to say DeFranco. Is that correct? Those eras. It was those eras. And it really inspired me to want to do YouTube. And obviously since that time, which has been like over a decade, YouTube has really transformed and gotten more, some would say niche, like there are more of these like subcultures that exist, but also deeper, like for the people who've grown up with it, they have grown into it, so to speak. And it's such an interesting thing to witness, not just like YouTube, but all of social media, how we interface with it and interact with it, because what our social lives look like is predominantly virtual. People go on to social media almost every day in whatever form it is. Maybe it is YouTube, or it's your gaming, or it's Reddit, or it's Instagram or Facebook. So it covers so many ages, it covers so many demographics, so many different interests and types of people. And obviously with COVID and the whole isolating and doing a lot of work remotely via Zoom, doing meetings via Zoom, all that kind of stuff, it's really reinforced that connection as well. And I say this all in the backdrop of like Mark Zuckerberg developing like Meta and actually investing billions of dollars into making VR feel real. And you can watch like interviews of him talking about this, where he is literally making Facebook meetings so that it'll feel like you're actually talking to someone, and that your brain will be tricked into thinking like this is reality or whatever. And he's asserting that it will be the new norm. And of course, there is also the other side of like the crypto economy and also the crypto estates, like crypto property. So, you know, that your metaverse is also has this like interface level to it as well, that you can go to different worlds or rooms or whatever it is, you know, NFTs and all that kind of stuff, interactive galleries, art, all that kind of stuff. And the reason I'm making this video is I just was like kind of tripping out, because I was going on Facebook and it popped into my head, and I'm not someone who goes on Facebook a lot. I didn't really grow up using it as my main social media, but like as I got older, it's like it is kind of a thing, but it's not something I go on a lot. And which is an interesting topic, because MySpace was this thing where I almost feel like it had its like Tumblr era. And when I say that, I mean like people just kind of post what they wanted, and you know, it kind of had its like artisticness to it. And then Facebook had that, where people are kind of like, oh, this is super fun to hang out on, talk, whatever, say crazy shit. And then it kind of died down as people, like, I feel like more more older people adopted it and started becoming like, oh, my family's on here, you know, like actually my Facebook is pretty public and people can access it and see a lot about me. And so then there became like a cleaning up of appearances and also like not using it just as like the social thing. And then Instagram came along and it had similar effects. Like you can definitely be silly on Instagram, but definitely if you're making your own Instagram and you're not like trying to be a personality, you're just trying to like be a typical person who like takes a picture of themselves, a couple selfies, or like something beautiful, you know, if you're a boy or a girl, maybe you're taking pictures of like your sports events, if you're like in high school or even as you get older. But you know how it kind of takes on that feeling. And I feel like maybe people younger than me understand Instagram to be even more of like this social reach kind of thing. Maybe not, I'm not sure. And obviously TikTok is like the thing that has come after, and I have not adopted TikTok because I just felt very hesitant about it. I just felt a lot of suspicion about it. And I'm glad I did because yeah, it's a weird one. And I've heard people say that they feel that like all social media is designed to be particularly addictive, but like TikTok also runs into that category. And yeah, I'm just glad I didn't get into it. But I mean, I still watch TikToks because people literally like repost them all over the place, right? So I still interface, but just not on the app itself. And TikTok's whole thing is that you can grow an audience really quickly. Like that's really the thing. It's like it moved beyond Instagram and was like very algorithm based and very like, oh, if you do this thing, like you'll be rewarded. Like the more you post, the more you interact, like you will be rewarded for it. And so in a certain kind of way, you have more people who are like creating an image and creating a profile on there. And of course it's going to include a whole subset and a big group of like younger people. When I say younger people, I'm thinking mostly of like high schoolers. And high schoolers have always been like creating stuff. Like I remember when I was in high school, I was watching other high school YouTubers who were maybe a couple years older than me uploading stuff, and then like watching them like as they graduated and like what are they on to next? Maybe they moved to LA, like and then kind of lost track of all of that as I started to stop using social media because I was like wanting to be more natural. I'm not trying to be all over that stuff. It's not good for you. Anyways, so that was kind of a tangent. So I was on Facebook though. And I was on Facebook because I remembered someone that I knew a couple years ago. And I was like, I wonder what are they up to? Like, I wonder what they look like now. Like, I was just curious about it. So I looked up their name. I couldn't find them. And then, so like I was doing the thing where you like look at other friends of them, you know, like if you have mutual friends and you're looking at mutual friends to find that person or whatever, because I wasn't friends with them. Not because I'm not actually friends with them, but like, I don't know, not friends with them on Facebook. And by looking at the friends list, I had this kind of epiphany where I was like, oh, it's so weird, like, because it was kind of weird to think of like, oh, this person like keeps up with these people, you know, like of the select people who this person is friends with, like these are the people that they like have agreed to continue to be friends with or whatever, haven't unfriended or whatever. Because some people do like cut down on their friends list, and that's natural. People edit it all the time, but some people like, you know, have fewer friends intentionally. And while I don't know if that's the case here for what I was seeing, but I was thinking like, oh, it's so interesting, like you choose to keep these people around. But I was like, but these people like you don't even interface with, because knowing myself, like I don't interface with this person anymore. And I'm like, you don't interface with these people, but like they're still kind of around in this way. And it just made me realize, like, of course you can always reach out to people. I've done that before. Sometimes I like end up talking to them more, sometimes just a, you know, a brief hello. And yeah, it's just this this thing where our digital lives are more real than our physical lives. Not really, but yes, really, because we do spend so much time on the internet, and like, you know, if you agree to be someone's friend or, you know, mutual follow, like, and you're keeping up with them and whatever it is that they're posting, then naturally that's how you keep in tune with their life. If you don't like call them on a regular basis, like social media is actually a really big form of how people communicate now. You know, people don't call each other as much. I mean, people do text and do call. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. And I don't mean to like reflect too much of my own life and overgeneralize. I'm sure that's happening, but I am aware that culturally people, like younger people, Zoomers, social, go out less. And of course, this is in the backdrop of COVID, like of course. But they don't go out to socialize as much, or they don't, like I think I was seeing something that like Zoomer boys or men, because they're like 18, 19, they, I guess actually no, some of them would be like lower to mid 20s. They they're like the generation that is like pursuing sex the least, you know, because of, I don't know, growing up on a computer or something. And that's a whole different topic, but I've just kind of heard stuff about that, like in general, like Zoomers are going out less or socialize less physically, but they still socialize online, but less physically. And it just makes me think how basically like the people, like I have this sense that I've kept up with people simply because I still have contact with them on social media. Even if I don't talk to them, like I still have this impression that like I'm keeping up with them in a certain way. But it's such a different relationship than what I have to someone who produces videos on YouTube, where I'm like engaging with their ideas. Like I actually feel like the people who produce on YouTube, like I'm actually friends with, because I choose to listen to their stuff, or if what they say is like either entertaining or educating or useful advice. And that feels more like a friendship, you know. The other stuff feels more like almost nostalgic, like, you know, keeping up because it's like, oh, like, you know, you're a good person, or I thought of you as a good person, you know, or I would, if I was to run into you, I would be friends with you, you know what I'm saying? And the quality of the friendship, I feel like, depends on what kind of platform you use. And I'm sure people feel like people are their friends on TikTok because it's a video format, and you can watch a lot of their stuff, all this, you know, that can totally happen. But I feel like YouTube kind of caters to more of a deeper relationship just because the longer videos, and then also, longer videos, and it's just a totally different groove, you know, different style. I'm using this format also as more like, I guess I'm like almost vlogging in a way, like in the true sense, like, you know, a blog was like, hey guys, like, this is what I'm thinking about, and putting it out there. It's my diary on the internet. But this is not like my diary where it's like, oh, these are my feelings, or I'm processing this thing, which people do, and it's great, you know, it's super fun. But I'm like putting this out because I actually want to like interface with people about this. Like I'm very intentionally putting this out to be like, oh my God, like what do other people think about this? You know, like what other people will I meet from this? Like blah, blah, blah. Or just like, there's plenty of things I've noticed, and I just feel like I have to get out there, and they don't really merit anything without like an audience. And that's why it's so fun to use this format. Something I was also realizing is that using Facebook and Instagram, yes, it is social communication, but it's this really passive form of communicating where it's like you're just constantly taking in other stuff, but like you have so much distance from it. Like you can choose whether or not to comment or like it, or, you know, even like look at it. You know, you could just scroll past or whatever. And so there, or even, you know, that's one example, but you could like actually totally absorb a lot of the message, the post, and then like it impacts you, and it has like a presence because, you know, you put your attention into it. And, you know, it's just this really like interesting thing where it's almost like we are just kind of like speaking out into nothing, which is, it's not nothing. Like you intend that like people will hear this and say something, but like a lot of times it's kind of like, you know, you're posting something and some people interact with it and some people are just like, you know, observing of it, right? Which happens in like a physical way where it's like, you know, we're all aware of our surroundings and whatnot. Or if you are in any kind of organization, you're, whether it's a school or it's a workplace or anything like that, you're aware of how each person affects the environment and kind of what story is being told in that. I think it's also harder to like, you know how like a lot of, it just made me saying that made me think of The Office and how they did like a really good job of like depicting like, you know, right, like 2000s, mid 2000s, like American work life, and did a good job. And also like, obviously it's a satire, but like, how do you make a documentary, or how could you even make a satire of like the internet? Like, would you make a satire, like, think about this, guys, like, would you make a satire of like different YouTubers like talking to each other? Like, would you make up this whole made up world of like YouTubers doing this and this and this, which you totally could, but isn't that so trippy? Like, you literally have to go through these like different channels in order to like configure a story. And that's what like a lot of YouTubers do, actually. Like some YouTubers actually, like their whole thing is like, obviously it's like media analysis of whatever they choose, but sometimes the media of choice is YouTube and like YouTubers and all this. And yeah, how do you make like an Office equivalent of the internet? Because the internet is like, you know, this environment thing. And then it's so funny how like Mark Zuckerberg is like, okay, so we're gonna make it like meta. It's gonna be meta. It's just like, bro, like we don't want to literally be in a fucking office. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I thought it was so funny where he was like, yeah, like we're making this so you can have meetings in VR. It's like, no one wants to go to the fucking meeting. Everyone loves that they can turn their mic off and like not be there. Like, it's so weird, don't you think? I thought it was like so funny. I was like, dude, we don't need virtual reality to like solve this issue of it not feeling real. Like, it feels totally fine. Like, we don't need the virtual reality meeting. Like, come on. Like, isn't that so weird? But virtual reality could be cool if you're like doing a meetup, right? Like, you can really talk to a lot of different people and it would feel really real and like all this stuff. But like, guys, you can fucking do that in real life. Real life. Of course, you have to travel, you have to go outside, you take some risks. And then if you're like in whatever kind of town you're in, I mean, the internet really was like this place of freedom. Like, it really was this place where it was like, awesome, like it doesn't matter that I live in a town where maybe I don't connect with people, or maybe I don't have a lot of friends, or this and that, and so you can like find similar interests outside of that. And obviously there are entire industries that have been built from that, you know, like I just think of like Comic-Con, for example, or like yeah, all kinds of worlds really. You know, cool stuff, like it can be like cool stuff like preserving certain like knowledges about, you know, growing food or, you know, passing it along. Like that's so cool. And then, you know, also nerdy shit too. Going back to like, okay, meeting people in VR though, like is VR like the byproduct, or I guess the natural sequence of like being globalized, you know, given how much like people move around for work and like the nature of cities growing, people moving from their small towns to a city, or like now the growth of like remote work, and also like the growth of like the entrepreneur world where people are like, oh yeah, you know, I can actually just make a fucking YouTube channel and like make more from that than like going to college. You know, I actually like it's probably as like bigger risk as like going to college, with like potentially maybe higher chances of doing well or so, I don't know. But like this whole like, oh, I'm gonna like sell my image and I'm gonna sell my story, I'm gonna sell my experience, or like create some online experience as my like fucking business. And yeah, I just like travel wherever, or like it allows me to go all over the place. So like we live in this very like mixed up globalized world. Your nana lives across the globe, your friends are all over the country and the world, and you know, after you graduate college, you're like, oh shit, like everyone is somewhere else and my family is somewhere else. And you know, like it's kind of like this hilarious thing where it's like, okay, we've all been like pulled to these different corners of the world, which is like an awesome and fun thing, but also it's like have the need to be like in proximity to those like we love or have relationships with too. And how do you have both? And maybe VR will be the world. I've seen things that like a lot of grandchildren have like a digital relation. They literally know their like grandchildren to grandparents know each other because of like the internet. They like know each other digitally more than they do physically. And you know, it doesn't like stop you from like knowing and thinking of them as real, which you interacting with this format is like just as real. Like it's real. You see my face, you hear my tone, like you have some kind of feeling by watching this, and it's like compelled you to continue to watch. That's really about it. I've also read and heard, and I don't know, I feel like it was, but I'm not sure, and I'm not gonna look it up. Sorry, I'm not fact checking myself right now, but I'm just thinking out loud. I heard this thing, meaning like I saw it on the internet, that the CIA, of course, has done all kinds of studies about like human psychology. I mean, the MK Ultra was real, and that literally came about because they were like, so what does LSD do? And you have like literally like you have Stranger Things that makes like this reference to it, and you have all kinds of conspiracy theories and spin-offs and all this stuff. But yeah, the CIA obviously has like, I mean, it's the US government. I mean, it's the most advanced military in the world. Of course they know about like human psychology and all of its impressions and impressionabilities. And one of the big things is that how media affects us. And of course, like propaganda and, you know, what makes a compelling argument for people to serve their country and be submissive to the state or whatever. And one of the things that the CIA found is that the way that your body responds to media, like movies or anything that you're seeing or experiencing, it considers it to be real. it literally, your nervous system codes it as this is happening to you. And even though, so you might not have like the physical, like by physical, like you might see like a wolf killing someone, like you did not also get a scratch on you by what, you know, like you didn't actually face the imminent threat of that, but your body like acted like, fuck, I literally just saw someone get mauled by a wolf. Because you did. And that's why I think watching horror movies is really bad for you. Because why would you put that into your system? Why? I'm all about good vibes. I only want to feel good. I mean, you're gonna feel bad, but like, that's like a total distinction thing that I'm not going to say right now. Because ultimately, what I take in is so I feel good. And that's true about like what you do with a lot of life. Like, I eat good food, so I feel good. I do this activity, so I feel good. You know, doing it to feel good. And there's obviously a lot of stuff that's messed with our perceptions of feeling good that actually makes us do things that feel bad in the long run, but we're addicted to them, and you know. So anyways, okay, so we live in a VR world already. It's not as 3D, but it's VR because of the way it affects us, and also just like, frankly, the way that we've trained our brains to conceive of it and interact with it. And pretty crazy. And you know, I'm just here in the ride. You know, I'm making this video because I'm here in the ride. I've been noticing stuff. I've got ideas. I got thoughts. I'm in the ride, and here I am making my presence known, you know. What is the saying? Ask and you shall see. So here we go. It started with the word. Here we are, making a presence. Hello. It's so weird. I know I'm gonna meet so many people because I'm doing this. I know I'm going to like build something amazing, and in a certain kind of way I feel like a birth is happening right now. And it is. And I'll probably like even come into contact with all kinds of cool people because of this. And I love it. And this is where we begin.